So back here on the Post-Gazette Penguins podcast, I'm King Jemison alongside Jason Mackey in Montreal. But Jason, just last night you were in Ottawa for the team's 4-0 loss to the Senators. It was the fourth time in 5 games that they have been badly outplayed, the others being at home against Montreal, at home against Utah in a game that they squeaked out an overtime point, blew a 3-goal lead that they didn't deserve to have, but then probably didn't deserve that point that they got at the end either. And, of course, Edmonton on Tuesday before last night. So they are not only getting unlucky and blowing leads in the way that they were earlier in this losing streak, when we think about the Ducks loss, the Sharks loss, even the loss in Dallas. Now it seems to be affecting the team's play throughout the game. What was your reaction to the effort you saw last night?
Surprised, disappointed. I thought with how this homestand went, and it was terrible, and we've talked about it, I thought you get away from PPG Paints Arena. You get on the road. You've got the dad's trip. You've got, frankly, they're not in a bad spot. Even now, the Eastern Conference is so tightly packed, you should feel fortunate that you didn't blow your whole season with the way you've played recently. And so you've got an opportunity to do something here on the road. And it was interesting, too. I listened to Kyle Dubas' radio show on Wednesday night, transcribed it, wrote it up for postgazette.com yesterday. And he talked about that exact thing, saying, I believe in this team. I believe we have a foundation with how we're going to play. I would have to imagine that message has been delivered behind closed doors. The public's hearing about it after the players. And somebody's saying that. You believe that you have this. Why are you not going to go out there and play and honor it? I was just... From the very beginning, I'm sitting there in the press box, literally saying out loud to other reporters covering the game, they are flat. They're flat-footed. They're caught behind. They're step slow. It was alarming. And I don't have any great reason for why it was that way. Like I said, you have everything in front of you. You have a great opportunity despite all of the crap that happened at home. It's inexcusable. And if you look at the inside hockey stuff that they did, their breakouts were not very good. Net front again, Ottawa did a great job clearing things out in front of Linus Ullmark. The Penguins did no such thing against Arturs Silovs, in front of Arturs Silovs. Silovs was not good. The Penguins' penalty kill was, again, leaking oil. And they've had far too many issues lately, and it's been a little bit of everything. It's astonishing how this continues to happen, Kim.
Yeah, it truly, truly is. I was absolutely flabbergasted by the lack of movement from the Penguins, that it felt like they were not getting their feet going, that the Senators were the first to every puck. And then once the Penguins were gaining control, they simply could not maintain it. Ottawa was clearing the zone extremely, extremely quickly. I'm sure the possession stats bore that out. One stat that I think stood out to me just about sort of the effort and attention to detail from this game was 22 giveaways for Pittsburgh to 10 for Ottawa. That's not a winning team. You're already having trouble punching through goals, and you're already having trouble with your goaltending. You don't want to be giving the other team that many more possessions. And this was a game where they were badly outskated. That was pretty much over by about the midpoint of the game. And there were some bad calls. I think I'll briefly touch on those.
Sure.
The tripping call on Arturs Silovs that led to the first goal for Ottawa on the power play. I don't know how that's tripping. It seems like he's just trying to play the puck.
Yep.
And then there was a goal disallowed because of goalie interference by Rickard Rakell when he was very clearly being pushed into Linus Ullmark, who was fantastic. But they don't win the game even if those calls go their way. And I think it is concerning to me that the problems we saw in the third period with maintaining possession, with generating chances, with clearing the net front, those things are now happening in all 60 minutes.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, King. I thought you were going to keep going because, frankly, you can. It was not 2 calls. That was the subject of my game story from last night. We can sit here and focus on 2 calls. It's a 7-game losing streak. There's so much more involved. And you had the opportunity to respond better to that stuff, and you didn't. To me, the goaltending is a problem. I know we're just kind of throwing stuff against the wall here, but you kind of have to, right? I don't understand how you continue playing Arturs Silovs at this point. You need to make some lineup changes. We'll get to those. But, the stuff that happened in the third period continued. It's concerning to me, the pure volume of the problems they're experiencing, if that makes sense. Like, it's not one specific thing. It's not like, I don't know, they can't score on the power play, or they can't stop an opposing team from scoring on the power play, or every game it's some problem in the neutral zone that they can't get through. Like, they're pretty much filling up a bingo card of ways to lose hockey games right now. And who knows? Who knows what it could be on Saturday night? And they could just start throwing pucks in the air. We don't know. It's just it needs to stop. It needs to stop fast. And I don't know why it continues to happen. If I did, I'd bottle it and sell it. I think they're trying to get to the bottom of it. I guess focus is a good umbrella, but it's their season is slipping away, and they need to stop it.
They're clearly a team lacking confidence too. Like the vibe on the ice, even though the vibe in the locker room has seemed fine on practice days, on off days, the vibe in the locker room and on the ice appears to be worlds different than it was earlier in the season. Like, that positivity is gone. But let's stop just naming problems and start talking about some potential solutions. And you offered some, I think, very noble ones today that I think can be a jumping off point to talk about where the team is at in general and what, if anything, can be done. So you suggested some lineup changes, and I really agree with all of them, and I'll just quickly recap them, and we won't go into detail on each one. But you suggested changing Kris Letang's pairing and probably moving him down in the lineup, saying an ideal fit might be with Brett Kulak, who's a very defensive-minded defenseman, and I think has largely acquitted himself well in his first couple of games with the Penguins. You suggested playing Stuart Skinner a lot, despite his 5 goals allowed on Tuesday in his first start in a Penguins uniform, because Arturs Silovs is just simply not the answer right now. 1 win in his last 11 starts. Suggested playing Rickard, Rakell at center, breaking up that top line, which, by the way, the stats on the top line have not been good this season, so it's not like you are destroying the chemistry of some dominant unit. You clearly need more offensive balance in your lineup, particularly as long as Malkin is out. Suggested putting Ben Kindel back on power play 1. Could not agree more, because his passing ability, his vision is something that's sorely lacking. And I agreed with the person you'd have him swapping out in Anthony Mantha. And then bringing back Boko Imama. And we know that's going to be a popular suggestion with Penguins fans. He's a fun player to watch. He provides a spark. That's what they're desperately needing. But again, not going to dive into each one, but which one stands out to you most as the most urgent need for the Penguins to address now?
The first one, King. The first one. Kris Letang, it's bad, man. It's bad. And I feel horrible saying that. I've loved covering Kris Letang. I like his style. I like the way he plays the game. I respect it. I've covered a lot of his career. I respect what he's battled through and how he's still on the ice and how he lives his life and all that stuff. He's just getting older. He's not the same player he used to be. And I think part of the problem is Kris. Part of the problem is age. Part of the problem is the Penguins. They're not going to do anything here. It's not like you can, you're not going to designate him for assignment, to use a baseball term. Like, you're not going to send him to Wilkes-Barre. You're not going to healthy scratch him. Like, he's a proud player with a huge legacy. You need to see it through for better or worse. You've made this commitment. But you don't need to play him a ton. You don't need to play him on a second pair. And you need to play him with the right people. And that's why I suggested, the Ryan Shea pairing was good early on. There were a lot of things in this season, King, that were good early on that are not good now. Let's just look in the mirror and admit this and say, this is not working. Kris Letang needs somebody to help carry a little bit more weight. And I understand you saying you like the Kulak and St. Ivany pair. I get it. I would use Brett Kulak's value a different way. Maybe that means Ryan Shea and Jack St. Ivany in a third pair would jumble them, whatever. But I would prefer to have Kris Letang either in a third pairing role or have him next to Brett Kulak if that's going to be in a second pair, and give somebody who's a little bit more used to that sort of thing, to having to cover up saying, oh, this guy's going here. Oh, goodness. Okay. He's pretty good at having his head on a swivel. He's had to do that. So yeah, the defense stuff is number one for me. And they're just, I know it's easy because they're giving up over 4 goals per game during their losing streak to just say it's all defense. It's not, but their defense is not in a great place right now. We were talking off air. They've got $10 million going out the door in Matt Dumba, Ryan Graves, and Connor Clifton. That's not efficient spending. And the guys who are playing aren't playing terribly well. So that's number one.
Yeah, I could not agree more. The goaltending issues are, I think, less fixable, and that's part of the problem too, is that, you can't necessarily do much with your goalie rotation unless you want to throw Sergei Murashov to the Wolves. And I think we both think that would be a very bad idea at this point.
Yeah.
You can shuffle your defensive pairs. You can see if that provides just a better level of chemistry, a better level of togetherness. We're seeing this team give up a lot of rush chances. Teams are flying through the neutral zone on them, and all of a sudden goalies are under siege when just a second ago the Penguins were in the offensive zone. And I think there's any number of reasons that could be happening, but not taking any action would really be the worst course of action in this case. Just a couple more that I would spitball in there. I would think about elevating Tristan Brose again. I like his activity. He's got goal scoring ability, 17 points in 24 games in Wilkes-Barre. He just plays with a type of intensity that could be useful. He only got one game with the Penguins before he was sent back down. I'd like to see a little bit larger sample size from him, particularly while your forward depth is hurting a bit with Malkin and Blake Lizotte still out. And then I think Kevin Hayes does not need to be in your lineup at this point. I don't see him helping the team very much. I think it's hard to play around his lack of speed. And I think whoever you put him with, he's going to slow that down. I think seems like a great guy. He is obviously a smart hockey player. He can make some things happen with the puck, but the lack of speed is hurting the Penguins, and we talked about their defensive issues already. I could suggest almost any number of things for the defensive pairs because I don't know what's going to work, but I know they need to change something. And maybe at some point Owen Pickering should get a shot. We know that he's a very talented defenseman who they plan to be as part of their future on the blue line. I mean, it really can't get worse at this point. So I could see elevating him, but at the same time, you've got a lot of similarly talented players who are already in your lineup, and I'm not sure necessarily adding another unproven guy is the best bet there. But those were just a couple more that stood out to me.
We know this, King. They have a lot of levers they can pull. And I think they'd probably rather not. But I mean, I outlined them in the story. You threw on 3 or 4 more just there, and I can't say I disagree with any of them. I mean, the only thing I don't understand is just continuing to do the same stuff over and over again. And I think that's starting to wear on Penguins fans, that you're seeing, these decisions like, why? Why are you not changing things? Why are you continuing to play Kevin Hayes in a role that, 1, he's not really contributing much in, and 2, it's at the expense of other guys? Like it could be Tristan Brose that you're talking about 5-on-5, maybe on the power play, it's Ben Kindel. Another thing I suggested in the story, like, if your vision is the future and further out, I get it. Play the young guys, give them opportunities. It's sort of mixed messaging here. And I mean, in that vein, you could take what I'm saying and say, okay, well then why don't you play Sergei Murashov? And I can understand that comment. I can. It's, it is a little contradictory, but
we know that it works differently with goalies.
I know
that you do not want to destroy a guy's confidence.
Agreed.
And right now, the goalie performances have not been good for the Penguins, but these guys have gotten very little help.
The only thing I will say, King, and this is maybe recency bias after watching Silovs last night, who was, I don't think, very good at all. Stuart Skinner's been a pro. He's been around. He's been to Stanley Cup finals. By all accounts, I mean, this is, again, very brief sample. Very, very good guy. Is it the worst thing in the world if Sergei Murashov would be up here with him and they'd both just go like 50-50 on starts? Just alternate?
No.
I don't think so.
No. As long as you're still getting Murashov reps, which 50-50 would be a lot of reps, I think it doesn't even have to be that. It doesn't have to be a true platoon. It can be a bit more of a Skinner-heavy rotation. But, yeah, I mean, I think if Silovs goes down, nobody's going to complain about that. I think Murashov is a better goalie than him. And if you are trying to win, yeah, that does make sense to me. I think what you need to see first is that Skinner is capable of being that top goalie.
Yeah.
And I believe that his pedigree says that he is. I believe he's going to have a lot easier time mentally than he did going up against his former team in his first start. That was a horrible situation for him to be thrown into. I don't blame them for starting him. It was his 3rd game as a Penguin and the first that he was truly available for. But I think that was a tough way to begin his Pittsburgh tenure. don't want to judge his ability to turn things around off that.
Yeah, and I really like Stuart Skinner so far. I don't blame him in the Edmonton loss. I mean, he did not play well, and he owned it. He was off for a week, had the weird immigration issues, and you and I don't really know what that's like, but I know that he wasn't able to do much in the interim. That's just tough, man. Like the NHL, you're used to playing a game every other day or every third day. He didn't play a game for a week, basically. He was rusty. He didn't play well. That happens. Not going to formulate a huge sweeping opinion on that. That's why I suggested in the piece, too, play him a lot and just see where it goes. If he plays well, I'm going to stick with him. You're going to have to play Silovs, and if Silovs continues to struggle, I'm just going to say enough's enough. I know you have to expose him to waivers, but nobody's going to pick up a goalie who's had a goals against average like near 4 since October, like that. And if they do, I mean, Godspeed. The concern for me with Murashov is, one, what you're talking about, not having him see ghosts and putting him into a very ugly situation in front of him, and 2, having to prioritize getting Stuart Skinner up and running, as Kyle Dubas said on his show. Once that happens and you can maybe split the starts, I'd be open to it. I also think they just need to be sort of mindful of future business too, that if Stuart Skinner is playing well, he suddenly becomes tradable. He's on an expiring contract, the same as Tristan Jarry. Like, he's not going to be the goaltender of the future here. That is Sergei Murashov. So you probably don't want to keep him, and you want to pump that trade value as much as possible. So I also understand why it might make some sense to wait on Murashov until after the trade deadline.
Another person that applies to the raising their trade value would be Brett Kulak, who also is on an expiring contract. Also, I think would be attractive to contenders. You know, if things are really going south for the Penguins, you'd like him to have looked good because he's in a good pairing. That's a solid fit for him, because I think he would be a pretty desirable piece for someone. Jason, any last thoughts before you enjoy some time in Montreal and don't have to think about the Penguins for a bit?
Yeah, I got to go get some breakfast and then write a Sunday column. But after that, Kyle Dubas could be very busy, by the way, King. I was going to add this on to your last point. I was just thinking about this idea. I think about the guys like Anthony Mantha has played himself into Kyle Dubas is probably going to get calls on him. I don't know if he trades him, but, the guy's on pace for 25 goals. Like, that's going to be attractive to somebody. Brett Kulak is somebody. Maybe Stuart Skinner becomes that. I don't know if somebody calls on Erik Karlsson at this point. He's been better. It's a tough deal to make in season, the same as it was last year. But anyway, and you would hope none of it happens, right? You would hope that they dig out of it and they're in a playoff spot, and Kyle Dubas can't possibly execute those trades. And Rickard, Rakell, Bryan, Russ, same deal. But it's going to be a very interesting time as we kind of look ahead.
Yeah, whether it's on the ice or in the team's ownership or in any other number of issues, it is a time of transition for the Penguins, and we will be keeping you updated on it all. Jason will have lots of coverage from Montreal. Does look like Sid's passing of Mario is imminent. He is 1 point away from tying, 2 points away, obviously, from surpassing him. So that's very likely to happen either in Montreal on Saturday or at PPG Paints Arena on Sunday. But that's going to do it for the Post-Gazette Penguins podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great day.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.